L'Shana Tova. I remember being at a funeral once and watching a woman overcome with grief, utterly paralyzed by the prospect of shoveling dirt into the grave of her father. Officiating the funeral was a dear rabbinic mentor of mine, Rabbi Ed Feinstein. Here was this woman in the throes of her grief, being asked to do something deeply painful. She understood the horrible reality of being at her father's funeral, but being asked to shovel dirt was too much for her to bear. How can I bury my father? That would mean he's really gone. Rabbi Feinstein stood with this bereaved daughter and asked her a question. Your father, would he read you bedtime stories? Yes, the woman said. And after he'd read you a bedtime story, what would he do? He'd tuck me in and give me a kiss on the forehead, she said. Rabbi Feinstein nodded and put his arm around her. Now it's your turn, he said. Tuck him in. And she did, because she realized a connection. Grief, paralyzing in one moment, might also carry seeds of healing in the next. Grief can be constructive and it can be destructive. There's a story in the Talmud that Rabbi Yochanan lost his beloved Chavruta, his study partner, named Reish Lakish. The other rabbis try to comfort him by setting him up with a new study partner, one so knowledgeable that whenever Rabbi Yochanan would make an argument, this rabbi would come up with the exact verse to support him. But that didn't cheer Rabbi Yochanan up one bit. Why are you telling me that what I said is good? He'd ask. I know it's good. That's why I said it. But when Reish Lakish was alive, he'd give me 24 reasons why I was wrong. So I'd give him 24 reasons why I was right, and our understanding of Torah grew. I once tried giving Rabbi Alex 24 reasons why she was wrong about something. Yeah, we don't study like that anymore. Recognizing that he could never replace what he'd lost, Rabbi Yochanan tore his clothes, wept, and wandered about the city, searching for the friend he'd never find. Where are you, Reish Lakish? Where are you, Reish Lakish? There are no seeds of healing in this story, only a descent into madness as he loses himself to a grief that ultimately kills him. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. But I would argue, and so would Charlie Brown, that maybe there's such a thing as good grief, or at least constructive grief. When, along with its visceral tearing us up, it also drives us to find meaning, comfort, and healing in our ancient traditions, like shoveling earth. When confronting a chasm, a rupture, a tear in the fabric of our hearts, we too realize a connection and build bridges to other broken hearts, finding common ground through a shared experience of loss. This is one of the many things our daily minyan does oh so very well, offering the lifeline of community to those reciting Kaddish, the mourner's prayer for departed loved ones. Grief can be constructive when it gives us a deeper sense of what it means to be human, and when, like the piercing cry of the shofar, it serves as a wake-up call that something needs to change, that what got us to this point is not what will get us where we need to go. Then there's destructive grief, when we abandon hope of ever finding healing, meaning, and purpose again. When it burns bridges, instead of connecting us, grief can cause us to lash out at one another, dividing us into separate adversarial camps, particularly if we perceive someone's reaction to loss isn't pure enough, so we other them. We no longer identify them as being part of our group. It's destructive when, like the Egyptians living through the plague of darkness, so thick it can be touched, we become unable to see each other because we've sunken so deeply inside ourselves that we grow morally callous to the outside world. And grief can be destructive when, simply put, it exhausts us. I hear in Rabbi Yochanan's cry for his friend a mournful exasperation. Where are you? Where are you? Rosh Hashanah yikatevun, uv'yom tzom kippur yechatemun, mi yichyeh u'mi yamut. On Rosh Hashanah it is written, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed, who shall live and who shall die? This has been a year of grief for all of us. There are beloved community members whose seats in this room are empty now, whose smiling faces and good yontifs once lifted us, but now live on only in our memories. In my own family, Rabbi Alex and I lost 3 of our grandparents and watched as our mothers became bereaved daughters, tasked with burying their parents. Marriages have dissolved since last Rosh Hashanah to now. Friendships have ended. Precious college experiences have been lost to the scourge of vicious anti-Semitism and real danger. The atrocity of barbaric Hamas terror unleashed on our Israeli brothers and sisters enjoying a peaceful music festival on October 7th turned our world upside down. Brothers and sisters, parents and grandparents, children and grandchildren, babies, brutalized, murdered, taken hostage. An ensuing war against Hamas and Hezbollah cowards who hide underneath daycares and hospitals, brave Israeli soldiers fallen in battle protecting our homeland, parents with superhuman strength doing everything in their power only to have their worst nightmares become unthinkable reality. Across the war-torn region we call home, parents tuck their children in one last time or aren't even able to, and we all grieve. When Adam and Eve eat the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, they hide from God. God asks, Ayeka, where are you? You're my children. Come out from your hiding. Come back home to me. That's what tshuva means. That's what the high holidays are all about. Come back home to me. It takes on new meaning this year when, with mournful exasperation like Rabbi Yochanan, we cry out, where are you? When, like God calling out to Adam and Eve, we ask, Ayeka, our children, after 364 days, come out from your hiding, where are you? Bring them home now is the tshuva we are all so desperately praying for. But everything seems to take on new meaning this year. Just now we read from the book of our prophet Jeremiah, a cry is heard from Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping Rachel, weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. The vantage point is that of our ancestor Rachel, who wasn't buried with the rest of our matriarchs and patriarchs, but instead dies in childbirth while traveling along the way near Beit Lechem. It's from this distance, Jeremiah says, that Rachel witnesses the exile of our people after the destruction of the temple. Except when we read it now, it's Rachel Goldberg who's weeping for her children, for her son Hirsch, an Israeli-American hostage whose story we followed so closely. Trapped in a shelter, bombarded by Hamas grenades, Hirsch lost his left arm and his best friend, Honor Shapira, after they bravely repelled terrorist grenade after terrorist grenade. Hirsch was taken into captivity in Gaza, and for 332 days, his parents, Rachel and John, galvanized the world around the release of all the hostages, until we learned in utter shock and devastation that Hirsch Goldberg Poland, Alexander Lobanov, Carmel Gat, Almog Sarusi, Eden Yerushalmi, and Ori Danino were brutally murdered by their captors in cold blood. And so a cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel, weeping for her children. But she, in her courageous and tireless advocacy, has given us a window into the nature of her grief through her writing and her speeches. While we can never understand her and John's unique torment, and while no one's grief fits into a box, she's demonstrated to the world what it means to heroically and impossibly choose constructive grief. Grief is constructive when it gives us a deeper sense of what it means to be human. Rachel Goldberg describes the experience of hostage families as being on another planet. From a distance, like Rachel before her, Rachel Goldberg has a unique perspective on the rest of us. Jettisoned into the furthest reaches of the cosmos, where darkness can be touched, you'd expect her to have less clarity, but instead she finds more. From her vantage point, she sees the bigger picture of human nature, how we too often turn our grief into anger. She writes, This is everywhere on our planet. I understand that hatred of the other, whoever we decide that other is seductive, sensuous, and most importantly, it's easy. Hatred is easy. But hatred isn't actually helpful, nor is it constructive. In a competition of pain, there is never a winner. We human beings have been blessed with the gifts of intellect, creativity, insight, and perception. Why are we not using it to solve global conflicts all over the world? Because doing this is hard and takes fortitude and imagination, grit, risk, and hope, and it's hard. So instead, we opt for hatred, because hatred is so comfortable, so familiar, and so very easy. The time is running out to save them. The time is running out to save all of us. When Moses loses his sister Miriam, he lashes out at the people and disobeys God's command, striking the rock instead of talking to it. That one mistake prevents him from entering the promised land. It's easy, it's understandable, it's so very human to turn our grief into anger. But ultimately, it won't get us where we need to go. Grief is constructive when we build bridges to other broken hearts through a shared experience of loss. No one can be expected to inhabit someone else's grief while all consumed by our own. And yet the Talmud says we blow 100 shofar blasts on Rosh Hashanah to simulate the blood-curdling cry of Sisera's mother. In the book of Judges, Sisera is an enemy general who wages war against the Israelites. The rabbis say we blow 100 blasts for the 100 cries of Sisera's mother as she peers out her window, realizing her son's chariot won't be coming home again. Jews make it our personal responsibility to remember the cry of a bereaved mother, even the mother of our enemy. Rachel Goldberg wrote this poem when she was still hopeful that Hirsch was alive. She writes, "There is a lullaby that says your mother will cry 1,000 tears before you grow to be a man. I have cried 1,000,000 tears in the last 67 days. We all have. And I know that way over there, there's another woman who looks just like me, because we are all so very similar. And she has also been crying. All those tears, a sea of tears, they all taste the same. Can we take them, gather them up, remove the salt, and pour them over our desert of despair, and plant one tiny seed, a seed wrapped in fear, trauma, pain, war, and hope, and see what grows? Could it be that this woman, so very like me, that she and I could be sitting together in 50 years, laughing without teeth because we have drunk so much sweet wine, sweet tea together, and now we are so very old, and our faces are creased like worn-out brown paper bags, and our sons have their own grandchildren, and our sons have long lives, one of them without an arm, but who needs 2 arms anyway? Is it all a dream, a fantasy, a prophecy? One tiny seed. When divides are just too vast, grief might be the only bridge that connects us. I want to end where we began. A woman is tasked with burial, but in this case, it's not her father. It's not a case of difficult but impossible and never should have happened. And yet, Rachel Goldberg wasn't the one in need of a rabbi to give her the strength to bury Hirsch. We were. She was our rabbi, putting her arm around us, giving us permission to tuck him in. Finding meaning, comfort, and tiny seeds of healing in our ancient tradition, Rachel Goldberg writes in her eulogy, "I am so grateful to God, and I want to do Hakarat HaTov and thank God right now for giving me this magnificent present of my Hirsch. For 23 years, I was privileged to have this most stunning treasure to be Hirsch's mama. I'll take it and say thank you. I just wish it had been for longer. Now, my Hirsch, I ask you your help. As we transform our hope into grief in this new unknown brand of pain, I beg of you, please do what you can to have your light shine down on me, Dada, Libby, and Orly. Help shower us with healing and resilience. Help us to rise again. I know it will take a long time, but please may God bless us that one day, one fine day, Dada, Libby, Orly, and I will hear laughter, and we will turn around and see that it's us and that we are okay. You will always be with us as a force of love and vitality. You will become our superpower. This year, we face the very real risk of losing ourselves to our grief, of being lured into its destructive qualities. Instead, we can choose a more constructive experience of this pain we feel. We can turn to sources of meaning and comfort and healing we may not have previously entertained for ourselves. We can build bridges to other broken hearts. We can deepen our sense of what it means to be human. We can believe in the transformative power of one tiny seed and proudly declare, as John Poland does in his eulogy, Od lo avda tikvatenu, we still haven't abandoned our hope. Grief we turn into hope. That's our superpower. I know it will take a long time, but please may God bless us that one day, one fine day, Dada, Libby, Orly, and I will hear laughter, and we will turn around and see that it's us. Jeremiah, that same prophet we just read today, envisions, Od yeshama ba'are Yehuda uvachutzot Yerushalayim kol sason v'kol simcha, kol chatan v'kol kala. Once again will be heard in the cities of Judah and Jerusalem the voice of joy and rejoicing, the voice of the groom and the voice of the bride. Good grief helps us navigate loss when we turn it into hope, tikva. Hope that this may be somehow, some way, a happy, healthy, sweet new year for all of us. Am Yisrael Chai and L'Shana Tova.